Rooted in the physical body, we tend to try to build up consciousness as an outgrowth of the physical life, rather than taking the opposite approach of understanding that consciousness is primary and creates successively all the more and more dense levels of existence, with the physical body, the dense layer of physicality, being the result, not the cause. As each layer of consciousness becomes more and more compacted, it tends to lose a lot of the natural fluidity that less dense layers have. Thus, we can see that, in principle, mind is more flexible than the life force, which tends to act according to patterns, habits, and instincts, and that the physical body is even less flexible as it anchors fixed patterns of response into its substance, its operations, and its reactions. If we assume that the physical body is the result, not the cause, then the fact that it is more fixed in its ways than the preceding levels does not necessarily imply that this will always be the case. We can then look at whether, and to what extent, the physical body can be made more flexible without overturning its primary purpose as the foundation for life in the material world. We can actually identify several trends that show us that the body indeed can be enhanced and made more responsive. We see individuals who undergo extensive physical training who can undertake feats of endurance, flexibility, and extension of capacities far beyond the level at which they started. We also see scientists who work to understand the actual functionality of the anatomy and physiology of the body, and who develop means to expand and extend the life and mitigate factors that cause deterioration or breakdown. These attempts show us that it is possible. The average lifespan today is substantially more than just a few hundred years ago. Certain factors that used to be considered death sentences are now controllable and, in fact, in certain instances, reversible. These enhancements do not get to the root of the issue, which is the ultimate control of consciousness over the formation, preservation, and utilization of the body. Once we achieve the level of consciousness that can identify with and develop modifications to physicality at the cellular level, entire new paradigms with respect to lifespan and basic health can be contemplated. The mother observes, quote, "It is only the physical being that grows and decomposes, but this comes from its lack of plasticity and receptivity, and by its very nature. It is not inevitable. Therefore, there is room to think that at a given moment, as the physical consciousness itself progresses consciously and deliberately, well, to a certain extent and increasingly, the body itself will be able, first to resist decay, which obviously must be the first movement, and then gradually begin to grow in inner perfection till it overcomes the force of decomposition. But truly speaking, it is the only thing which for the moment does not progress. Everything else is progressing. But this substance itself, that is, this material physical substance which forms, it constitutes an organism which lives for a certain length of time in a given form, and then this form declines and dissolves. The substance itself, constituting these successive forms, progresses through all these forms. That is, the molecular, cellular substance, perhaps even the cellular, the molecular and atomic, is progressing in its capacity to express the divine force and consciousness. Through all these organisms, this substance becomes more and more conscious, more and more luminous, more and more receptive, until it reaches a perfection sufficient for it to become a possible vehicle for the divine force itself, which will be able to use it as it uses the elements of the other parts of the creation, like the mind or the vital. And at that moment, the physical substance will be ready to manifest in the world the new consciousness, new light, new will. Through all the centuries, through countless lives, passing through innumerable organisms, using countless experiences, it, so to speak, becomes refined. It is prepared and becomes more and more receptive and open to the divine forces. So, a man as a momentary individual being may not appear to progress, but the progress is continued through him, as through all organisms. End quote. Reference, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, Our Many Selves, Practical Yogic Psychology, Chapter 6, Some Answers and Explanations, pages 214 to 215.